Hey folks, Jonathan here. Messing one of my trucks. This old rollback here, it's a 95 and I have got right at 500,000 miles on it, so it's a 500,000 miles. Been a good truck. Wasn't a, real well maintained when I bought it, but I found when I got it that it had a grease fitting that was plugged up for the Kingpin, and the Kingpin was actually on this side was bad, but it wasn't real bad. But it's gotten now to where it's going to have to be taken care of for sure, and I'll show you. I don't know if you can see that movement, but so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the Kingpin on this side. Normally I'd do both sides all the time, but the other side is just tight as could be. The other thing I've got to do, the driver told me the other day that the spring broke, and he heard it hit the ground, and we've got a short spring out. Now we've got a power steering leak on this one that's leaking actually out of the seal on the pump, on the steering gear box. So I'm going to see what I can do about taking care of that problem while I'm at it. So we've got a spring to put on, and we've got a Kingpin to put in, and this side is sure dirty and oily from that power steering leak, but we'll try to get it all done here. And I don't have a working pressure washer right now, so I'm going to be working in the dirt, and that's the way it goes. But we're going to get this thing apart and see if we can get the spindle off of it, where we can get some get the new Kingpins in, or Kingpin bushings and Kingpins in it, and we'll see how it goes, if it goes good or goes bad, or if it's wore past the bushings into the spindle itself. The way this works is the Kingpin don't turn on the axle itself. It's solid on the axle, and it only turns on top and bottom, which is part of your spindle itself. So you're not going to wear the axle itself out, you're just going to wear out the spindle. So, and I do have other front ends with spindles, but I would rather, of course, be able to use this one. But we will start getting it tore apart and see what we can figure out, and I will show you more. Okay folks, we've got it part of the way down. It's pretty dry up in here. This truck's been sitting, well, on and off, I mean, a couple years. We don't use it very much at all, but having a little issue getting this wedge bolt out. You loosen this nut up, should be able to knock it through, and it actually comes out on this side right down in here, and it's just a wedge. What I'm probably going to have to do is heat it up some. Don't want to, but don't really have a choice. And maybe it'll burn off some of this old nasty grease and oil. But top side's not real bad. I mean, it's not into the spindle, so I think we're going to be all right on this side. We'll have to, or on the top side, let's hope the bottom's okay. And okay folks, we've gotten one of the pins out, and this pin here, it actually had a nut on it. I'll show you what it looks like. This is the new one, and that's the old one. It's kind of hot, so I don't want to touch it, but I actually had to heat it up, or heat the axle up a little bit to get it out. But you can see it started mushrooming, smashing, but we got it. They're not in there lightly, let's put it that way. But there's another pin that's sort of hidden that if you don't take out, you can give up on getting it out. And it's right here. And what it is, it's a short pin with no head on it, no bolt on it. You can see it's been peened, looks like 3 or 4 times around it to hold the head in. So it's going to drive out from this side, and so it's probably going to be a pain, but we're going to see if we can drive it out. And once we get it out, it'll be ready to I'm going to make me something probably. If this don't seem to like it's want to move halfway easy, which it probably won't, I'm sure, but we'll make it something to slide the pin down in and be able to really get a good hit on that. But for now, we're going to see if we can get the other pin out, and I'll show you more. Okay folks, we finally got her. You can see her smoking there, still hot. Had to heat that one up pretty good. It didn't want to move, but I got it, and wanted to show you what the pin looks like in these. You can see there's a notch there and a notch there. That's what catches the 2 pins that we just slid out. That's a new Kingpin for it. But there's our old small one, and I think it was harder than the other one, but we got it, and I am sure that's going to be a pain to beat that main out, so the main pin, so we're going to make something up for that so we can get a good hit on it. You know, there was really not much we could do on these small ones about getting a, you know, something set up to help guide our, you know, our punch through there, but we can definitely do it on the top side. We'll set it up good and see if we can drive it out pretty easy without a lot of headache and problem. Well, I mean, we can get some heat on that axle if we need to, and just do what we've got to do. And I will get something set up here and I'll show you. Okay folks, here's what we've made up. This is 7/8, and I just made a piece. It's 3/8. I just turned out or bored out an old piece of a pin I had, welded it on, and then this slides down in. Should be able to hold it still for me while I heat it up and hit it with sledgehammer. So hopefully that'll get it. We'll see what happens and I'll show you. And there you go, fellas. Little heat. Knocked it right on out of there. So, mushroomed the end of our piece up, but it's not a big deal. I mean, it took us 30 minutes to make it maybe, so I mean, we can always make another one, but that's the way to do it. And now we're going to check and see how bad if it did screw our spindle up at all. But let it cool down there just a little bit before I mess with it too much. But the first heat on it, I just heated on this side, but first heat and it come right on down, so not a problem. Alright, we'll let her cool off and pour it down, and I'll show you what we got. Okay, we've got it apart here, and it don't look like it, I don't think it got down into anything. I'm going to make a puller, or at least make a piece and where I can hammer that down through that bushing. And you know, them bushings aren't real thick, but I really don't think it hurt the spindle. We're going to knock them out and find out, but you know, it come apart pretty easy. And everything, of course, I've been heating on stuff, so you know, there was no grease left at all. And our little knocker we made here, you know, it didn't hurt it a bit, so it's kind of hot, but we can use that one on another one. But just mushroomed this end up, but that's not that big of a deal. You know, I expected that. So. Anyway, so I'm going to see if I can get these bushings knocked out of it and really see how bad it is, and I think we're going to be okay. I was going to go ahead and pull the arms off, but I think I can get everything out right there. You know, these are not real thick pressed in bushings there. I'll actually show you what they look like. And but here's what you're looking at. It's just a thin wall. It's like steel back. Not much to them really, but we'll see what it's going to take. They're split too, so should knock out of there pretty easy. But we'll get it out and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay folks, we've got these out. I think I got really lucky. No place at all on the walls is it showing anywhere. I broke them up a little bit, but it was partially through, and you can see I bent it all up. But and I broke some of this out, it's so thin. But I would guess if I would have waited any longer, and I broke that one up with a pair of pliers, but if I would have waited any longer, I would be in trouble for sure. But that looks really good, and so we're all apart, and we're gonna get her cleaned up now, and go ahead and get it together, and we'll have this job finished. So I'll show you when I start assembling it anyway, and shouldn't take too long. Show you more. Okay folks, we're putting the bushings in now. I made a piece here. It's just a driver. It's stepped down to the exact size of the pin, and goes all the way through the bushing, and then just driving it down in. And I've got this one in. I'm going to turn the outside of it down just a little bit, because this is actually going to be countersink 130 thousandths on the top side. So and it evens it out. And but that's how you put them in. You know, just trying to knock them in is not, you're never going to get them good. I mean, they do go in tight. As you can see, it's pulling a little bit of metal off the side of that garlock bushing, but which is not a problem. I mean, you want them to fit in tight. But once it's in there, then we'll fit the pin to it. Probably have to use maybe a brake cylinder hone or something to get it right. It says not to ream them, do not ream them, but so we're not going to try to put a reamer through it or nothing. But I think they'll work out fine. We'll work with it until we get the pin like we want it, and then we'll start putting it back together. Okay, now I've got to get the caps back on. There's O-rings that go in here. You know, the bearing, everything's in, all the seals, so everything's tied up and in good shape. I've got a pin. I'm going to pin around that just a little bit more to make sure it stays in, and it looks like it's going to work out really good. And we've got a new bearing, outer bearing seal, or inner bearing seal. We'll get on it and put it back together. Now I'm going to actually get it all back together and get the wheel on it before I change the spring, because I've got to turn the truck around. I've got to pick the truck up with the wrecker to get it high enough to get my impact under them U-bolts. Need to get the big 1-inch impact in there, because if not, I'll be taking them out by hand, and that's a big pain. But anyway, we'll get it together here, and maybe we'll be back on the road with it before the end of the day. Okay, folks. I know no one's ever done anything this stupid before, but I was putting grease in this thing, trying to figure out why the grease was coming out under the bushing, or under the bearing, and I realized I put it on upside down. So I'm going to try to drive our Kingpin. I got everything back out. I'm going to try to drive our Kingpin up high enough to get this bearing slid out and turned over. The way this thing is set up, I've got another old one here. There's a seal on the inside, and then there's an outer seal. The outer seal has got to face down, and that lets the grease pump up into this bearing. And having this seal on top, I've got it turned over, so it's actually holding the grease out from going in the bearing, and there's no way that that's going to hold up. And so we just cannot run it that way. And I've got everything off. I'm gonna put my piece I made to push the pin from the bottom and see if we can get it to push up and far enough to get that changed. But stuff happens. I'm just glad I caught it. Alright, I'll show you what happens here. Okay, let me see. Got it up a pretty good ways. We'll see if it's far enough. Got another old pin here. Just about. Probably another 1/2 inch or so. I think that's the limit right there for a pin. So we can take it off and stick something up in there and knock it up a little bit. We'll get that bearing out, get it turned over. I'm interested in seeing if it got any grease to it at all. I'm betting it didn't, but we'll see. Okay, it might have actually got just a little tiny bit, but it could be from where I greased everything up when I put the pin in, but definitely not enough. So we're going to go ahead and get her back in there. We're going to put her in the right way this time, and it just slides right in place there. So get it up in there and get it lined up and knock the pin back down. So I figured it'd take a whole lot longer than what it did. So alright, let's see if we can get this thing done. Okay folks, we've got it back together. Didn't go back together hard either, so I mean wasn't that big of a deal. But one thing about it, if you do mechanic work or fabrication or just about any job, you know you're going to mess up sometime, and that's not that important. The important thing is what you do about it when you do mess up. Because I've seen people that would have drilled holes in the side and shot grease in it and taped it over, and I've seen people that would have left it. And in the wrecker business, you know, you see a lot of weird stuff when you're towing vehicles, but you know, we're all going to screw up sometime. But like I said, it's all on how you handle it when you do. So don't be hard on yourself if you do. Just fix it. That's the important part. But anyway, I'm going to finish up getting this together, and I'm not going to do anything on the spring, you know, video wise, and you know, it's just a pretty simple spring change. And the good thing about these bigger springs, the bolts don't stick in them like they do on a little car. I've never had them stick in them bad or anything like that, so they usually come right apart. But you just, you know, got to have some bigger tools. 1-inch impacts just about a must with most of this stuff. But anyway, that's how you do the Kingpins, and till next time, bye.